Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Srila Prabhupada.
Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Srila Prabhupada.
Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Srila Prabhupada. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada,
Srila
Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakti Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakti Bandhu Mui Hare Prabhupada Jaya, Prabhupada Jaya, Prabhupada Jaya, Prabhupada Jaya, Prabhupada Jaya, Prabhupada Jaya, Prabhupada. Namo Vishnupadaya, Krishna Krishnaya Bhutale, Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine. Krishna Krishnaya Bhutale, Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyata Deshakarine. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyata Deshakarine. Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Priya Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Shri Krishna Bhakta Vrinda. Jai Go
ISKCON Father Acharya, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai, Jayam Vishnupad Brahmangsa Prabhupada Astotir Sata Shishiman, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada ki Jai, Anatakoti Vaishnava Vrinda ki Jai, Ramacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki Jai, Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advait Gadadhar Sivasati Gaur Bhaktivinoda ki Jai, Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyamkunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhana ki Jai, Shri Mathura Vrindavan ki Jai, Navajit Mayapur Dham ki Jai, Shri Jagannath Puri Dham ki Jai, Gangamai Jamunamai ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Shrimati Tulsi Maharani ki Jai, Harinam Sankirtan ki Jai, Transcendental Book Distribution ki Jai, Their Lordship Shri Shri Nitai Maya Prachandra ki Jai, ISKCON Kirtan Yatra ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai, Nitai Gaur. All glories to thee, assembled devotees. All glories to thee, assembled devotees. All glories to thee, assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga. All glories to Shri Prabhupada. Lotus feet for our spiritual masters are the only way by which we can attain pure devotion souls. I bow down to his lotus feet with great awe and reverence. By his grace, one can cross the ocean of material suffering and attain the mercy of Krishna. My only wish is to have my consciousness purified by the words emanating from his lotus mouth. Attachment to his lotus feet is the perfection that fulfills all desires. He opens my darkened eyes and fills my heart with transcendental knowledge. He is my Lord, birth after birth. From him, ecstatic prema emanates. By him, ignorance is destroyed. The Vedic scriptures sing as his hero. Our spiritual master is the ocean of mercy, friend of the poor, and Lord and master of the devotees. O Master, please be merciful unto us. Give us the shade of your lotus feet. Your fame is spread all over the three worlds. We take shelter in your divine wisdom. Shri Prabhupada.
Well, worse maybe.
I was looking at them.
Okay, so these are lessons we need to put them.
Call him his name.
I'm going straight on.
Krishna, Krishna,
I'm going to
Hare
send
Hare,
it onto the Facebook.
Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama.
Remember, he doesn't normally do it on the Facebook. The moment there's onto on Facebook, doing but how's it going to get sound?
When the rising sun appeared in the east, the jewel of the twice born, Lord Gaurasanga awakened, and taking his devotees with him, went all over the countryside, towns and villages, and played flute and mridanga, and the cymbals chimed in time. Lord Gauranga's shimmering golden features danced, and his footbills tingled. All the devotees chanted the names Mukunda, Madhava, Yadava, and Hari, their mouths being filled with the vibrations. They would announce to the still sleeping people, quote, "You spend your nights uselessly sleeping, and your days decorating your bodies. You have achieved such a rare human body, but you do not care for this gift. You remain not serving the darling of your children, and slowly fall in your last moments to death. With every rising and setting of the sun, the day passes and is lost. Then why do you remain idle and not serve the Lord of the heart? This temporary life is full of various miseries. Take shelter of the holy name as your only business. To penetrate the darkness of ignorance and bless everyone's heart, the holy name has risen like the shining sun. Drink the pure nectar of the holy name. There is nothing but the name to be had in the 14 worlds. It has filled the soul of Sri Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Unadaya Kirtan. Gita. Udilo Aruna Urabhavagi Dvijamani Gora Amani Jage Udilo Aruna Urabhavagi Dvijamani Gora Amani Bhakta Samoha Moya Sate Kela Nakara Kate Bhakta Samoha Moya Sate Kela Nakara Tatai Bhatalopo Gana Gana Tai Jajela Ro Tatai Bhatalopo Gana Gana Tai Jajela Ro Premedana Sonara Anga Charane Nupura Sate Premedana Sonara Anga Charane Nupura Sate Mukunda Madhava Yadava Hari Olena Bodore Madana Bori Mukunda Madhava Yaravahari Olena Bodore Madana Bori Nike Nida Base Kelo Revati Divasa Savira Aje Nike Nida Base Kelo Revati Divasa Savira Aje Himana Kundapa Dana Bateho Kaya Kikoro Pavana Keho Emana Dula Pavana Bateho Kaya Kikoro Pavana Keho Evena Bajine Jashoda Sutta Sharame Boripe Rade Evena Bajine Jashoda Sutta Sharame Boripe Rade Udita Kapuna Oileyasta Inagelo Boli Oileyasta Udita Kapuna Oileyasta Inagelo Boli Oileyasta Sabe que no ebe Allah Sahon Navaja Vidya Raje Sabe que no ebe Allah Sahon Navaja Vidya Raje Ivana Anicca Jana Jaya Vidya Vipadapa Jivana Anicca Jana Jaya Vidya Vipadapa Namasraya Kori Jatane Tumi Saka Apana Kage Namasraya Kori Jatane Tumi Saka Apana Kage Ivera Kayana Sadana Ka Jagateya Siye Madhurana Ivera Kayana Sadana Ka Jagateya Siye Madhurana Avidya Chimera Tapana Rupe Yekagane Raje Avidya Chimera Tapana Rupe Yekagane Raje Krishna Namshuda Koryoga Jurayo Bhakti Vinoda Namshuda Koryoga Jurayo Bhakti Vinoda Nama Vina Kitu Naiko Aga Jora Bhumana Maje Nama Vina Kitu Naiko Aga Jora Bhumana Maje Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Jaya Bhakti Vinod, 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 Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, I was mentioning how in Mayapur, when I was there in 1975, after Mongol Arati, Puja, then there was a time we chanted our japa, but then about 15 minutes before the greeting, they used to sing bhajans. And this Arunodaya Kirtan and Jeev Jago, very famous songs by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur were sung. And throughout the day, different devotees would go into the temple and chant various bhajans. And of course, Chidananda Prabhu, Chidananda Swami at the time, compiled this very wonderful book of all the Vaishnava songs, or many of the Vaishnava songs, actually. Srila Bhaktivinoda composed hundreds of songs. So he wrote the songs, and then he gave them to his disciples to put them to music, actually. And of course, in Bengal especially, and Vrindavan, all over the Vaishnava world, they're singing these wonderful songs by Srila Bhaktivinoda. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Sunyavari Paschachade Chatarine. Reading from Srila Prabhupada Nectar. So, we've read through the book, but we're now going to the appendices, the notes that are in the back. They were not presented at the same time. I noticed when His Holiness Bhakti Chaitanya Swami was here, the notes were right behind each particular entry, but they're not in the book here. The entry is there and then the notes are in the back. So we'd like to give that additional information, the anecdote, so that a little clearer understanding of the incident happens and the particular mood and of Srila Prabhupada is more clearly given. So this is from Volume 4, it's Chapter 12. Radhanath Swami recalls a 1976 visit Srila Prabhupada made to the old farm quarters in New Vrindavan. Prabhupada had lived in that primitive woodland setting for a month in 1968, when it was the entire New Vrindavan. So at that time, there was only a couple of square acres or so of New Vrindavan. It stand to be corrected, but it wasn't very big, whereas eventually it became 1,200 square acres. In America they used acres, not hectares. So it became, over the years, gigantic. But at the time, the Vrindavan farm was all there was of New Vrindavan. Although he had frequently visited the growing New Vrindavan project, Prabhupada had never gone back to the old farmhouse. Kirtanananda Swami told the residents, if you can clean up this place, I will bring him up. But later he changed his mind. We're not going to meet Prabhupada up here. You say it looks like a jungle. It is not proper. Radhanath was disheartened to hear it because he was the pujari of the deities, Radha Vrindavanatha, who resided in the little temple farmhouse. They called it the Brahmachari farm. He had been feeling it would be the perfection of his devotional service to Radha Vrindavanatha if the pure devotee Srila Prabhupada would come to associate with him. He decided to at least bring a picture of Radha Vrindavanatha for Srila Prabhupada to see. One day during Srila Prabhupada's visit, Kirtanananda Swami introduced Radhanath to Srila Prabhupada and told him that he had been making Srila Prabhupada's sandwich. So, His Holiness Radhanath Swami has written the book, Journey Home, and he describes him traveling overland from Europe. He went to visit Europe, and then he was getting inspiration to ultimately travel to India overland, through Iran, Iraq, Afghanistan, Pakistan, the whole thing. And some or other Krishna protected him. You read the book. How many people have read the book? Not read. Not Swami's book.
Yes.
Should definitely read that. It's really
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
It's one of those, you can read. It's easy reading. Easy reading. And it's very wonderful, actually. Some amazing things happen. And, it just shows he's a very, very special devotee. So, and then he went to India. And then he lived in the Himalayas. He took association from a lot of great saintly persons. Some of us would probably call bogey yogis, but they were sincerely practicing their path. And Madhava Mars was simply appreciating, what they had to offer. And many of them offered to initiate him, but he felt, not now. He wasn't ready, or this wasn't the person. So then eventually ended up in Nepal. And then Prabhupada had brought the devotees. He wasn't an ISKCON devotee at the time. He was a yogi, Babaji, sadhu. That was all he was attempting to be. But then he met Srila Prabhupada. And he started associating with devotees, listening to Prabhupada speak. And eventually, he joined the devotees there. But then he had to leave India. And so he went to New Vrindavan. So Prabhupada knew him. And in fact, the first Bombay Pandal, the big one, when the festivities were going on, Prabhupada was in this big Pandal tent. There were thousands and thousands of people. And Prabhupada told either Giriraj or Gurudas, and he pointed out this boy in the back, and he said, bring him here. And he went all the way to the back, and it was Radha. Before he was Radha. And he told him, Prabhupada said he must come on stage. Prabhupada doesn't know. He didn't have time for explanation. He just grabbed him and dragged him up to the stage. So this was even before that. So Prabhupada knew him. One day during Srila Prabhupada's visit, Kirtananda Swami introduced Radhanath to Srila Prabhupada and told him he had been making Srila Prabhupada's sandesh. Very nice, Srila Prabhupada replied. Radhanath then showed Prabhupada an 8x10 picture of Radha Vrindavan Nath. Srila Prabhupada looked at them silently and meditatively for about a minute. Then he began glorifying Lord Krishna. He said that Krishna in Vrindavan is the sweetest. When Krishna stays in Mathura, Dwarka, that is city beauty. But when he is in the village of Vrindavan, his beauty is the sweetest. City beauty. While saying this, Srila Prabhupada continued to glance at the picture of Radha Vrindavan Nath. He then spoke of how Krishna goes out to the pasturing ground with his buffalo horn and flute to hear herd the cows and play with his friends. Krishna and his friends would get so absorbed in their play that Mother Yashoda would have to go out and get Krishna to bring him home. Where are these deities? Srila Prabhupada asked Kirtananda Swami. They are at the original farm, said Kirtananda Swami. the place you stayed many years ago. You can take me there to see that? Asked Srila Prabhupada. It is very difficult to go there, Kirtananda Swami replied. The road is very bad. It would be uncomfortable for you. You have a jeep? Srila Prabhupada suggested. Seeing Srila Prabhupada's persistence, Kirtananda Swami said that they would make all arrangements for his going there. When the brahmacharis from the old farm heard the news, they were ecstatic. They tried their best to clean and make ready their backwoods temple and planned how to greet Srila Prabhupada. Radhanath emphasized that Kirtananda Swami said it was important that the recording of the Govindam prayers begin as soon as Prabhupada walked through the doorway to the temple. Therefore, the tape recorder should be cued and placed strategically. A guard should stand down the road and another near the house to signal Prabhupada's advance toward the temple. Radhanath, the pujari, would stay poised by the recorder, ready to press the button at the right instant. Meanwhile, Srila Prabhupada traveled 3/4 of the way to the farm by pickup truck and then decided to walk the last part as his daily morning walk. As he walked, all the guards went to join him. Passing a black cow, one of the devotees said, "That's the first cow of New Vrindavan." Srila Prabhupada. I had the name in my head and it just flew out.
Not Surabi one.
No. That's the first cow. It may have been Kalia. Yes, I know Kalia. The next page. Srila Prabhupada responded. Because when Prabhupada was there, Prabhupada was drinking her milk. Very nice milk. They say black cows. Yes, I know, Kalia. Srila Prabhupada replied. Finally, he walked up to the temple and entered. Somehow the other devotees were all detained outside, and Srila Prabhupada entered the temple room alone. He stood with palms folded, looking at the surprised Radhanath. A bit belatedly, Radhanath pushed the button, and Govindam began. They then opened the curtains, and Srila Prabhupada stood to one side, looking at Radha Vrindavanatha. He nodded his head approvingly to the deities and then to the pujari. After a few moments, Prabhupada went to the rear of the room and sat on the rustic-looking vyasasana. Sublimely and naturally, he began to give the morning Srimad Bhagavatam class. So it was a cabin, a big cabin. It was wood, all wood. And the floor was wooden with, and it was very quaint, very quaint. And the brahmachari stayed there. It was their farm. So they didn't mix that much. The householders had their bahulava, like that. And there was plans for Prabhupada, where Prabhupada stayed, Prabhupada's farm, which became Prabhupada's palace. So the notes are in the back.
So good. You said is the temple, that small temple, no longer there?
No, I don't know the history now. Things have changed a bit. They built a large temple for Sri Radha Vrindavan Chandra. And New Vrindavan became quite a tourist attraction. And especially during festivals, they have a big reunion festival there. And there's a Harinam festival there. And devotees come from all over the eastern United States. They have some big programs there, so it's still going on. So, this is Radhanath Swami interview. Prabhupada showed more than once how he immediately felt quite at home in New Vrindavan. And the Prabhupada Leelamrita describes this. In telling of Prabhupada's first visit there, although he was accustomed to big cities, as soon as he came to a place like New Vrindavan or to the farm in Hyderabad, he was at ease and quite happy with such primitive living conditions, what to mention Bhubaneswar. In India, Prabhupada had also spent most of his early years in the cities. He grew up in Calcutta, had his business in Allahabad, and he traveled as a businessman. But his attraction to such simple forest settings is transcendental. He also told us that Krishna is attracted to such a setting in the original Vrindavan. Prabhupada always became enlivened at the prospect of Varnashram Dharma, village life, and cow protection when he came into these settings. It enlivened him to see the Krishna conscious farm developed in a simple setting. Radhanath Swami tells that on one occasion in New Vrindavan, Prabhupada said that the devotees should stay in New Vrindavan and be satisfied. It was the same thing Kirtanananda had been repeatedly telling the devotees. Now that Prabhupada said it, it became a great confirmation for the devotees there. Prabhupada was satisfied to stay at their farm community, and they should follow that example. So Prabhupada wanted so much simple living and high thinking, and unfortunately now we're high living and simple thinking. Number 16. One of the first times I was in Srila Prabhupada's presence, I saw him drink water from a lota. It was amazing because I had never seen anything done with such precision. It was a small thing, a tiny gesture, but there was something unique about it. I realized that anyone who could drink a glass of water like that was not an ordinary person. Later on, as I would have more association with Srila Prabhupada, I would see that happening more and more. He would do something and just do it very carefully. Most people do ordinary things carelessly without thinking about them. Yet somehow or other, he always acted with full deliberation. It was, I guess, just a side effect of being Krishna conscious. So I don't know if people notice sometimes they're doing something like picking up a glass of water and they knock it over. And you're doing something and you just make a mistake. It's like just a normal thing and you're thinking, why? How come now, when I've been doing this for years, all of a sudden it's not happening? So it requires some deliberation. maybe Krishna is telling us, slow down and do things deliberately, which Prabhupada did everything. Once when I was in Philadelphia, this is Ravinder Swarup Das, as far as I know, has been in Philadelphia for ages, and as far as I understand is still there. Once when he was in Philadelphia, I remember he called me into his room. He had a gamcha tied around his waist and had just been given a massage. When I entered the room, there were several things going on at the same time. Several TBC men were there, and there was a whole discussion going on that was way over the realm of responsibility that I had. I came into the room and offered my obeisances, and he turned to me and said it received a certain amount of money. He wanted me to take the money, bring it to the bank, and send it in a wire transfer to a bank account of his in Los Angeles. It was an ordinary thing, but what really astounded me was how he stopped everything else, told me what he wanted me to do, and explained it to me very clearly. It was the clearest explanation of any activity I have ever received. He told me exactly how he wanted it to be done and made sure I understood what he wanted. He called his servant over to make sure it was properly entered into the books, and in the course of making sure of the proper entry in the books, he found an error. With great precision and deliberation, not hurried, yet in a short amount of time, he accomplished a whole lot, sent me off, and then resumed his conversation, all with the same kind of precision he exhibited in drinking water. This is one quality of Srila Prabhupada's association. It becomes very difficult to describe because his Krishna consciousness would become manifest in these very small, insignificant things. And yet, while you were there, they were so expressive of the whole nature of the pure devotee. So this is, we were talking about attention to detail. For the spiritual master, everything is important. People would say some things happen by accident. And Prabhupada said, there are no accidents. This says that people don't understand the significance of what is going on. And here it's mentioned that while he was giving the money, he called his servant over to make sure it was properly entered into the books. And in the course of making sure of the proper entry, he found an error. So with great precision and deliberation, not hurried, yet in a short amount of time, he accomplished a whole lot. So this is the thing. I've never done any knitting. Have you done any knitting? All right, but I've heard the saying, a stitch in time saves 9. So evidently when you're knitting, if you make a mistake, then it stays there, and you go on, and the mistake stays, and you can see it, and it affects the whole look of what you're knitting. So you have to go back. You have to go back and fix it before you can go on. So Prabhupada saw this mistake in his, whoever was accounting for Prabhupada was so precise in everything. He would take account of the pennies even. When he was first there in New York, and he was maybe collecting a few dollars. And his expenditures, he would keep it down to the cents. That he went to the supermarket and bought some fruits for offering, and exactly would be there. So Prabhupada was very, very, and we read, we're reading one place. This morning, actually, we read Prabhupada. There's something that comes out on the internet about Srila Prabhupada. And Prabhupada was in Bhaktivedanta Manor, and he complained that there was some water dripping. He couldn't sleep. It was bothering. I have a tap in my kitchen that's dripping. Unless you turn it tight, it drips. And it hits the pan under the sink, and it makes noise, besides the fact that you're wasting water. Because every drop that goes out of the tap, you're charged sewerage for. If you look at your water bill, those who pay water bills know that for every drop that comes out, you have to pay for it. Not only the water, but then you have to pay to remove the water. They charge you for sewerage. So your water bill may be $300 or $400, and your sewerage bill will also be 150 rand. What's that for? So if you use the water, you have to pay for getting rid of the water. Every drop. So everything. Prabhupada was very precise. And it's good that we become that way, because then our life will be very deliberate. So here's the note from that. Ravinda Swarup Das interview. Yadavar relates a similar instance. One time on the roof in Bombay, Prabhupada agreed to watch a dance troupe of little girls as arranged by a life member. So you can see that in the following Prabhupada video. It's there. And these are little girls. They're 4 or 5 years old. Maybe 6 or 7 at the oldest. They're skinny little Indian girls. And they're dancing some little dance, and they're going in a circle and then dropping some flowers and things like that. During the performance, Yadavar began filming. He noticed that Srila Prabhupada almost continuously avoided looking at the dancers. By looking this way and that way, sometimes up and down, Prabhupada displayed an uncanny ability to sit before the show and yet avoid watching it. As with most instructions and rules, there are also exceptions to the injunction that one should not hear singing by women. So the injunction one shouldn't enjoy, especially sannyasis and brahmacharis. You shouldn't be watching ladies dancing. Ladies, the forms of women dancing, because it will disturb their minds. And we had the instance in 1975 in Mayapur, the big festival there. There were hundreds of devotees there. And His Holiness Bhakti Swarup Damodar had brought, mentioned previously, the Rangani Ketan. These very amazing dancers from where was he from? Srinagar. That section of India where he was from. He had brought them. There were 2 troops. One were the men, and they were expert martial artists. Of course, they didn't perform that evening, but we'd seen them from before. And they're swinging these swords at each other and dancing and fighting. Of course, fighting and dancing sometimes they're the same if they're done nicely. But these ladies, they were dressed in these very long kind of hoop skirts that when they spun, they looked like spinning tops. And they sang and they danced, playing Krishna's rasa dance. And it was very fantastic. But afterwards, Prabhupada chastised us that brahmacharis and sannyasis shouldn't be watching ladies dance. And then every year, his Holiness Bhakti Marg Swami puts on the plays, and everyone wants to go see. And then I'm feeling like what Prabhupada is feeling here if I have to go. Of watching but not watching. Because, and he utilizes the ladies, and of course it's mostly for householders. As with most instructions and rules, there are also exceptions to the injunction that one should not hear singing by women. 1975, a devotee in the Los Angeles temple became disturbed about having to hear, quote, a woman singing the Govindam prayers at the greeting of the deities. He wrote to Srila Prabhupada, quoting Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's commentary on the 13th chapter of Anchalila of Chaitanya Charitamrita regarding Lord Chaitanya's hearing the Devi Dasis singing in the temple. He also referred to Srila Prabhupada's purport in the 18th chapter of the 6th canto, which it stated that a sannyasi or brahmachari who sees the face or hears the voice of a woman and becomes attracted is committing a subtle fall down. Quote, in light of this, wrote the devotee from Los Angeles, many of the brahmacharis, including myself, approached the temple president here in the Dwarka to see if it would be possible that when the deities are greeted in the morning, instead of listening to Guru Das Maharaj's former wife singing the Brahma Samhita prayers, we could listen to your divine grace sing the Govindam prayers, rather than hear a woman sing. I am sure all the devotees would be enlivened to hear you instead of electric guitars, London Symphonic Orchestra, etc., etc., unquote. Srila Prabhupada replied in the letter of December 12, 1975, from Vrindavan, ISKCON. No, you have made some discovery. All along you have been hearing the recording of Jamuna Devi, and now you want to change. It is not ordinary singing, it is concert. Many people are singing, so it is not bad, just like Sankirtan. I approve of it. Here in Krishna Balaram Temple, we are hearing the same recording every morning. So if it is good here, why not there? That point was made in different ways. So it's important. It's important to be strict, especially for sannyasis. I was mentioning, and we read how Prabhupada didn't like this Krishna bowl business. But when I was in London, we had Bhagavad Gita bowls, which came from the devotee from Los Angeles. We kind of started there. And the last Bhagavad Gita bowl before I left England to come to South Africa, the prize was to be an advanced copy of the teachings of Queen Kunti. Book hadn't come out. This was an advanced copy. That was the prize. So I was the last two persons were myself and Gyanadas. Gyanadas was British, and of course the British are known for their being intelligent. And I believe he had advanced studies. He went on to become a PhD afterwards. And he had been a Japanese, a real Buddhist monk. A real Buddhist monk. Now, in Japan, everybody sends their kids to the monastery. They have to spend a year or two just for the family kind of thing. And they hang out and they shave their heads, they wear the robes, and they follow the program. But they're really not very serious about it because, they have to put in their time and then they go back and get married and do the whole thing. But he was serious. He was serious. He was so serious that he was putting the monks in the monastery to shame by his strictly following. So in such cases, they encourage them to go out and find their own cave and do their own meditation, which is Zen or whatever, killing the mind, basically, trying to control the mind or stop the mind. So he was really into it. He was doing it. And eventually, somehow, he met a devotee and just told him, "Boy, that's really dry." And he understood, yeah, it is. And then he finally was able kind of to give it up. So he and I were the last persons. And the last question, the winning question, was, in the Bhagavad Gita, it's described as a painstaking situation. And I read it and I remembered. And sannyas. So then I won the book. Which I kept for many years. But painstaking, and who was saying, I believe it was Bhakti Nisringa Maharaj was saying, when you're sannyasi, everything matters. And people are watching your every move. They're watching your every move. So it's mentioned that Prabhupada was very deliberate. Very deliberate. His Krishna consciousness would become manifest in these very small, insignificant things. And while you were there, they were so expressive of the whole nature of the pure devotee. And then what we just read about the scene. So, especially for sannyasis, householders aren't expected to be so strict, though vanaprastha and sannyas. Of course, when you read about sannyasi, there are different kinds of sannyasis mentioned actually in the third canto. There's the Kutijaka. The Kutijaka stays just outside the village where his family is, and he takes meals from home. He stays alone, and he spends his time chanting and reading. But he receives his meals from home, called Kutijaka. And in a different part of the third canto, it mentions that one who lives at home, but in a detached situation, detached mind. So that means no business and no sexual connection, which is pretty much the same as Vanaprastha, but depending on the person's activities. Then, Bahudaka. Bahudaka means goes out and begs, just from a few houses. Then, Parivajakacharya, and then Paramahamsa. So it's explained differently in different places. But the whole idea is detachment. Detachment. And detachment is only possible when one is attached to Krishna. So that is the thing. There's so much material distractions in this world, but we have to attach ourselves to Krishna's service of the deity, service of the spiritual master. We're also discussing about how important it is when the spiritual master departs that one has to grab that Vani Seva, the instruction, and to the degree that one takes those instructions to heart, or as best one can, then the distractions of the material world will not be there. But we have to replace the distractions of the material world with attraction to Krishna's service. And that becomes more easy. Any comments, questions? Chapter 28. While visiting Vrindavan before the Krishna Balaram Mandir was built, Srila Prabhupada used to sometimes stay in his original rooms at the Radha Damodar temple. On one visit, Jamuna Devi Dasi asked if she could cook for him, and Srila Prabhupada agreed. So this was Srila Kirti, and he was Prabhupada's servant. So he would massage Prabhupada and arrange for his clothing and everything, and he'd also cook. So on this occasion, Mother Jamuna asked if she could cook for Prabhupada. While Jamuna was cooking chapatis in one half the kitchen, Srila Prabhupada was eating prasadam at the far end of the same room. Prabhupada's servant, Srila Kirti, entered the room to watch. Prabhupada asked, "So you have taken prasadam?" "No," Srila Kirti replied, "I just begged." "Jamuna, fix him a plate of prasadam," said Srila Prabhupada. "No," Srila Kirti protested, "that's all right. I'll wait until you've finished," Srila Prabhupada. "No," said Prabhupada, "sit down and take prasadam." And if he had to say it one more time, then it would have been a very firm, "Sit down." Of course, he would have said it nicer than that. "Sit down and take prasadam." So Srila Kirti sat down and received a plate from Jamuna. Under Prabhupada's direction, she continued making chapatis and serving both Prabhupada and his servants. "So today she has fixed your lunch," said Prabhupada. "Now tomorrow you cook for her. That is the Vedic custom. Today she has done some service for you. Now tomorrow you must serve." "Yes," Prabhupada said, Srila Kirti. Looking through the lattice work into the courtyard of Rupa Goswami's Samadhi, Prabhupada began to reminisce. He said that often he would sit here and take prasadam and look at the Samadhi and Bhajan Kutir of Rupa Goswami. He was hoping Rupa Goswami would give him facility to spread the Krishna consciousness movement. So, in a very nice little book called Srila Prabhupada, the dearest friend of everyone, Mataji Mother Mula Prakriti Devi Dasi, an expert and outstanding book distributor. After Srila Prabhupada left, she decided that she would meet the people who knew Srila Prabhupada before he left for America and interview them about their experiences with Srila Prabhupada. And it is an amazing book. And it really fills in some of the gaps of what Srila Prabhupada was doing in Vrindavan and other places before, while he was preparing to come to America. So one quote here, Rishikesh Swami. He was staying also at the Radha Damodar temple. And he was sleeping there, and sometimes he would say in the middle of the night, he would hear someone crying. Someone crying. But he wouldn't get up to see who it was because he was trying to sleep. So he would just go to bed. But one day he got up and he went on top of the roof of this little room. Because they make the roofs with concrete cement there. Because people live on top of the roofs, and when it's hot at night, you can sleep there too. So he got up on top of the roof and he looked over and he saw that someone was sleeping around Rupa Goswami's Bhajan Kutir and Samadhi. He was sleeping and crying. And it was Srila Prabhupada, and he was begging for Rupa Goswami's mercy to empower him to fulfill the order of his spiritual master, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta. So he mentions that. And he mentions different things, that he would serve Prabhupada, he would recognize Prabhupada's position. And he said Prabhupada's sadhana was so powerful, so strong. And sometimes he would just clean for Prabhupada, or he would act as like Prabhupada's receptionist when Prabhupada was away out doing something. And he would tell people. And he was cleaning Prabhupada's room one time and he saw some spider webs. And he knocked on the spider web. And when Prabhupada found out, before Prabhupada saw it, he was very upset. He was very upset. He said, no, you shouldn't have done it. They are residents. They're also residents of the Dham. You shouldn't be disturbing their situation. So Prabhupada chastised him like that. So, very interesting. And this Mataji, she was able to collect that. Who would have thought? Who would have gone to try to find it? So it's a very wonderful book, and unfortunately she died of cancer before the book was published. But her husband, who was also a famous Gopavrinda Das, also a gigantic book distributor. I mean, distributed so many books by Srila Prabhupada. He mentions in the introduction. Prabhu.
Sorry, I wanted to ask a question before you don't mind. We often hear from some of us that have not been to the Dham about how it's, so to speak, materially covered, with the situation that it's in right now. And I was reading this book by Ram Das about the environmental impact of industrialism and modernization in the Dham, and he brought in a different perspective, that whenever people would throw out things, or the understanding that others are also natural inhabitants of the Dham, is that back in the day, or pre-industrialization, it was very natural setting. So if I was to throw out my, so to speak, rubbish, it would be vegetable peels and all kind of organic, and would just decompose in the soil. And if there was like,
or some pig, dog,
or yes, or animals would take shelter of that, or that wasping nests or spider webs, etc., would all be part of the natural ecosystem, because the spider webs catch the flies and the mosquitoes, etc. So I want to ask then about that perspective, and does it still quite fit in this kind of modern built-up environment, in this built-up age? Does that natural setting still, or the natural perspective still fit with the kind of lifestyle that we lead now?
Well, obviously it's not, because the pollution, when you've got a few hundred or a few thousand people living in a place is one thing. But when you've got hundreds of thousands of people, it changes. The ecological impact also changes. So unfortunately, the people that were managing, they didn't account for that, and therefore pollution began to overwhelm the situation. So somebody, we're also reading today about, in a blog, about the shelters. That was their duty, to make sure that things were running nicely, and being able to recognize when things are going to get out of control here. Things are going to get out of control because of the pollution. The Jimena was, you have these sewerage just going straight into the Jimena. So in the Echo Village, if you ever go there, they recycle all their gray water. All the water from the toilets, from the showers, everything is recycled. And within 2 weeks, the water is back into the usable ability. So it can be done. It can be done. It just takes someone to figure it out and apply it. And not just say, well, we don't need it, and let it go on. We live close to the water treatment works there in Athlone. And on a bad day, or a good day, you can smell it for miles. Because nobody cares. Nobody cares to get it right. Whereas in the Echo Village, they got it done. They got it down. It's not just a matter of swirling the water and letting it drop. They grow plants. They use plants that survive by eating all this E. coli and things like that. So it's a perfect arrangement, really. It just takes someone with a brain to see the problem and apply themselves. But nobody wants to, because they're too busy making money so they can drive a fancy car. That's all people are interested in. So, no, people have to see that the situation is changing, and it requires a different perspective, and it has to be dealt with differently. But people don't do that because they're too busy with sense gratification. So, answer the question. So there are people like the people that have brains that aren't clogged with so much junk. And therefore, a devotee can really be such a credit. A devotee and people who are brought up nicely in Krishna consciousness, then because their minds aren't so full of desire for sense enjoyment, then they can see things clearly. And they can help others. We see all the politicians all over the world. Of course, it's so glaring here in South Africa, that the politicians, are just in it for themselves. It's like no joke, you know. You don't have to, it's kind of like crazy that people can't see it for what it is, the so-called ruling party. We won't mention any letters. They're just people that are interested in themselves. And because their concentration is just on themselves, they can't help anybody. They can't even properly help themselves. But they can't help anyone else. And everyone else is looking for help. And they're just being ignored. Ignored in so many words. So it's only a person who recognizes the limitations of sense enjoyment. You know, I mean, you need sense satisfaction, yeah, but like you need salt. Prabhupada says it's like salt. I don't know. Anybody eat food without salt? Upendra, do you cook without salt? Let's put some salt in there. A little bit, not too much. You put some salt in there, otherwise it doesn't taste good. You can't taste it. So some salt is required. And it's different for different people even, how much salt you put in. We're cooking, sometimes we're distributing food at the university, and we put some salt there, and then the person is like, you know, and I said, wait a minute, why don't you taste it first before you start throwing all the salt on? And it's kind of, as they say, it's an insult to the cook, isn't it? That you know, it's not salted, spiced but you know, there's only so much you need. So people need to recognize what's required, and that's called regulative principle. Regulative principle. There's only so much you can eat, even though, and we have that instance when COVID just started, and the government was releasing all these food packages, you know, 10 kgs of meal, and a couple of kgs of sugar and salt and cooking oil, and they were wrapped up in packages, and the city council was stealing them and hiding them in his, they were meant for starving people, and he was taking them and hiding them in his garage. So he's got plenty, and he's stealing from people that have nothing. So what kind of corruption is that? And how he doesn't understand that the reaction is coming. The Prabhupada says the people that eat meat, they've got it coming. That's the law. That's the law. You kill something, you have to be killed. Oh no, it doesn't. It's not like that. You're just saying that. Find out. Find out when you get there. Mamsa. So if people don't understand it, they just think, man, it looks so nice in the freezer at the Pick and Pay. But you have to pay for it. So these things are going on. And it's another point. She has fixed your lunch, now tomorrow you cook for her. This is the Vedic custom. So people give service. They give some service, but you have to return some service. There has to be some reciprocation. That's the modern world. You get something, oh, thank you very much. And I'm waiting for more, you know. I owe Upendra an awful lot of burfi. You know, a piece of burfi every week. I like to give him a tray. I like to give him a tray. But the point is that people like accepting service, but then there should be some reciprocation, and that's missing. We're missing on the reciprocation because we don't recognize. And we don't recognize that Krishna is giving us so much as well. He's giving us so much and we're not reciprocating. So it's there. when we become tuned in. Even for devotees, they're offering some service, and Krishna is reciprocating, but we're not looking for the reciprocation. Krishna wants to give us something, but we're not looking that he's actually going to give something back out of his affection. Yat karosi, yat asnasi, yat jahosi, datasi, yat. Whatever we do, whatever we offer and give away, as well as all austerities we may perform, should be done as an offering unto me. So, Krishna is reciprocating for devotees. Austerity, getting up early, coming for the program. Krishna is reciprocating by giving some of his mercy. And we were discussing yesterday, what is our situation? What is our situation? For years and years and years, I'm trying. And I can only say, I'm doing the best I can. And I was thinking this morning, because we're singing the song, Patita Pavana Etu, Tava Avatar. We don't realize, and I can't say this to anyone else, but I can only say it to myself, that we don't understand how fallen we are, how far we've fallen from the tree, how far we've fallen from the tree. And then again, it goes back to the mercy. The mercy of Srila Prabhupada and the mercy of our spiritual master. And somehow or other they have agreed to accept us and engage us in some service. And to be engaged in service is such a benediction. It's such a blessing to be able to do something for Krishna. Dress the deity, cook for the deity, sweep the temple, sell oil paintings to build a temple. It's all a blessing. It's not that we have any credit. It's just that we've taken the opportunity. Maybe even reluctantly. And therefore the different degrees of servants are there. The one who is given the instruction and begrudgingly does it, or somewhat reluctantly does so. The person who accepts the instruction and performs it willingly. And then the servant that you don't even have to tell. He knows, or she knows, what the master wants and can anticipate. Of course, one should be careful. If one is not a mature devotee, then one should confirm one's created, not that it's a self-created duty, but it's something that one really can fully recognize that this is for the pleasure of my Guru. So those things are there. Sorry about that. Anything else?
So this is not related, but it's a question I was thinking of asking you yesterday, but I think Jagga and myself, it was something came up I think about a week ago. What is the difference between our philosophy and our theology? Remember where it came from?
I asked Shamananda if he can send me a link. It came from Shamananda Krishna.
Okay.
It was in, not last week, the week before this class, something CC class. I asked him for a link, he hasn't sent it.
Give me a context. I can't put it in any context.
It was around. He always mentioned that whenever we are asked what is our philosophy, people usually present our theology. And so we were asking, what's then the difference between the philosophy in terms of, I don't know if it's just Vedic philosophy in general or the philosophy of Krishna consciousness and the theology of Krishna consciousness.
it was actually a conversation that you were having that I ended up being part of somehow. You were having with Shamananda about what you wanted to do for your masters or something.
Yeah, so because I'm pursuing a PhD in philosophy, but I'd like to use Vedic knowledge, so to speak, or Vedic philosophy. And so you're saying we often get mistaken between philosophy and theology. So what I was explaining that I'd like to pursue something akin to world ethic centered around the main kind of relationships that we can have with Krishna, using those as archetypes, as relationships that we can have in the world that will bring us to a level of at least some sort of harmony. So you were saying that we can often get confused between theology and philosophy in that regard.
And that he will get judged if he doesn't, if he uses
If I use theology rather than philosophy in a strictly philosophy.
Yeah. Well, there's the Sat Darshan. The Sat Darshan is 6 philosophical schools of. So that's philosophy, and the philosophy of Srila Vyasadeva. I can't exactly remember the proper connotation for it. That's there. So there are so many. The other philosophy, there's Mimamsa, there's Vaisesika. There are different other philosophies. Whereas the theology of the person who is school is bhakti. So, do we refer to bhakti as a philosophy, or is it a path of devotion? So there's a difference between some philosophical understanding and practical application. Philosophy is like up here, and we know bhakti is in here. And we were quoting yesterday morning about Srila Lakshmana talking about donkeys. That donkeys carry heavy loads not for their own benefit. They just carry heavy load because there's a carrot sticking out front. And not every donkey's got a carrot even. It's following another donkey who's following another donkey. The one donkey's carrying a carrot. They're just following. But they're carrying these incredible loads. You go to Vrindavan, you see the brakes. And they've got this saddle on the back. And practically speaking, their legs were just about to buckle. These scrawny legs were just about to buckle. And what are they doing? Just for some grass. And the grass is right along the side of the road. But they're trained that the only food I can get is by looking like an ass, like a donkey for this person. So it said that if we learn slokas and philosophies and bookloads, paragraphs and all this, but we're not trying to develop love for Krishna. It says that regulated devotion is not the goal. Regulated devotion. It's not. It's loving service. It's love for Krishna. Spontaneous love, even. Spontaneous love is the goal of bhakti, of devotional service, not just a regulated devotion. Like people are pious, and they have their deity, and they worship their deity, and they offer food, and they work, and they have a pious life. Very good. But it's not the goal. The goal is to spontaneously love Krishna. And that's Chandana Prabhu, of course, explained. That's what Lord Chaitanya was teaching. That intense love for Krishna, that's the goal. We're supposed to, they say, the tears crying for Krishna. That begging for Krishna's name, begging for service, begging for association. All these things require the heart. Materialistic life, there's no heart. And you're watching this one movie, it was this football team even. And, they were tied, and it was the last minute. And the coach was telling his players, show me some heart. Show me some heart. So we don't engage our hearts much. We don't engage that fourth gear, fifth gear, sixth gear. We just kind of cruise. Whereas real devotion requires to engage the heart fully in trying to serve Krishna. So the more we do that, the more we're in tune with what bhakti is about. Okay. All right. Any other point, Manaji? Something, anything? It's still bubbling up.
I like your point about becoming aware of the reciprocations from Krishna. Brought to mind a small example when I went to Vrindavan. The previous time, before now, I was struggling with something, purport or something I was reading that I found was just heavy, and I was in my mind saying that Srila Prabhupada just feels so heavy sometimes. And then, anyway, I just got really much reciprocation. But then I also wondered, when you speak about becoming aware of the reciprocations, it's also said we shouldn't have a motivation. That almost sounds like you shouldn't expect a reciprocation. It's the same thing.
Well, we don't have to expect it. We should be able to recognize it when it comes. We should be able to recognize it. In the early days, devotees were always saying, you read. They were talking about, Prabhupada was translating. And how was he translating? He had the book and a pad of paper, and he was writing it out. So then it was Garbhamuni Prabhu. He was thinking, because he asked Prabhupada, well, what's the duty of a disciple? And Prabhupada said, the disciple should help the spiritual master in his work. And he said, Prabhupada doesn't do any work, doesn't have a job or something. And they went, well, he translates. So then he walked past this electronics store, and then he went in, and then he got a dictaphone for Prabhupada. So then this was great. Prabhupada was dictating. The problem was, nobody could transcribe what was on the tape. Nobody could type even. It's like people were taking drugs, and they never recognized these drugs are destroying your brain. So nobody knew how to type. I mean, typing, do you type? You type. 50 words a minute, or 120 words a minute, or 200 words a minute. I took typing, and it's in high school, and practically the most if not the most beneficial course. The only thing I really used that I ever learned was 8th grade mathematics, that's about it. I'm not doing algebra. I'm not doing trigonometry like that, but I type, and there was some mechanical drawing maybe that I used slightly. But I never knew how to type. So then this one boy came, you know the story. He was from this special college. And I remembered the college, except now I can't remember. Because there's a big book in America that has all the colleges and what their entry requirements were. And I remember, after I graduated from high school, looking at this book, and there was this college. Now I can't remember the name of it. But it was very, you didn't really have classes. You had projects. So the project was that you stay with an organization, and then your semester project was write a report on it. So this person decided, well, I'm going to join the Hare Krishnas. So he showed up at the door to explain what he wanted to do. I said, oh, fine. And he said, well, do you know how to type? Well, yeah, I can type. And he said, well, then they were trying to stretch it a bit. Do you know how to transcribe? I said, oh, yeah, I can do that. So the whole time he was there, he was transcribing Prabhupada's tapes. I mean, he must have been a demigod or someone that just came in. But the devotees had the motto, the Krishna supplies. Krishna supplies, and they would see it practically happening all the time. Whatever they needed, somehow or other, for the service of the pure devotee. It wasn't for themselves. I mean, it was for myself, I'm on the golf course and I need a hole-in-one. Please, Krishna, I need a hole-in-one. No. Even Billy Graham, I heard, said something to this effect that God always fulfilled all my desires except on the golf course. Something like that. So, but because it was for the service of a pure devotee, then Krishna can reciprocate. So the devotees always saying, Krishna supplies. Krishna supplies. And Krishna was just showing them the proper motivation. It wasn't for sense gratification. And if we want something for a pure devotee, then Krishna can give it. He can give it. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Shri Srinathai Madhya Jai.
Thank you, please.